to this broadcast of TrueFire Live. Whatever style of guitar you play, whatever style you dig, you will be as thrilled as we are to be broadcasting today with Josh Smith, session player, producer, band leader, songwriter, and not just in my opinion, but widely respected as one of the most accomplished, versatile, and unbelievably monster guitars. He plays everything from country and jazz to blues and rock, at a master level. And when he fuses those, all of those influences, into his own sound, he, in my opinion, joins the small handful of master guitarists, that are leading today's renaissance of the instrument. Music Radar had this to say: anyone who has witnessed one of Josh Smith's live performances comes away in awe of the man's ability to fuse jazz, blues, and country into one neat package with a technical ability that has to be seen to be believed. Josh is here filming his first TrueFire course, and that's the first of many because we've already talked about dozens of other possible course focuses and topics. This one's called Blue Highways, and Josh presents many of his own technical, harmonic, his creative approaches for playing across his wide palette. Josh, welcome, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Fantastic. I told you before, and I'll tell you live, you've been on our radar screen for a long time. You got a crazy busy schedule. Thank you for finally carving out a bit of time. We got lucky because you're about to jump on a cruise, aren't you?
Yep. It's perfect, actually. I'm leaving on a cruise from Tampa, so you got me in perfect time.
I know.
I'm so happy to be here, man.
We had a good time over the past couple of days, right?
Yeah, we have, man. It's been a blast.
So, Blue Highways. You came up with that name to kind of represent, you're rooted in the blues. You love the blues. It's where, you pretty much started there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, but you also have embraced all these other styles of music, all these other highways, different genres. How did that happen?
Well, man, my path is, unique to me, but I'm sure a lot of people have certain similarities. I grew up playing blues all my life. I loved it. I still love it more than anything in the whole world. And from age, 12 till 22, all I did was play the blues. I was obsessed. I lived it, slept it, breathed it, everything. Toured the country, put out records. And around 22, as silly as it sounds, I got burnt out a little bit, and I wanted to figure out a way to make a good living still as a musician. So I decided to move to LA and be a sideman, do sessions and tour, and it ended up working out pretty okay for me, and that pushed me to just learn so much more stuff, all these different styles of music and all these things, and it's a lot like the Blue Highways thing was like, I felt like everything I do certainly gets filtered through the blues lens.
Right.
I'm pushing that way, it's like no matter what I learn new, no matter what I get into, what style of music, what technique, it always ends up coming out through that blues filter because that's where my heart and my home base is.
Right. You said something interesting before at lunch about how, you've done so many sessions. Maybe not. That's Tommy on camera right now. Tommy, say hello, man. You're in front of the camera this time. That's a rare thing. This is going to be a collector's item, this broadcast. I really dug what you said. You were talking about how as a session player, sometimes you have to play, on dates that maybe you're not crazy about that particular music, or you might be in an elevator at a restaurant, and you hear some music, and yet you still find value in listening to it. Can you repeat kind of what?
Yeah, I long ago kind of tried to adopt the mindset that there's no bad music. Now there is, but I tried to at least go at it with an open mind where everything I was listening to, I tried to find something in that piece of music that I, number one, could respect and enjoy, and number two, that maybe I could bring into my little melting pot, my soup, and find something new to do in my world. So it may be as simple as some pop song thinking about how they track the guitars or how they mix the guitars or, why did this guy choose what sounds like a Telecaster to me or a Strat for this song? And that gives me something to connect to on music that maybe I wouldn't always enjoy. And there was the same thing on sessions. A lot of times, especially when I first moved to LA, I first off didn't really know what to do. I didn't know what producers were saying when they spoke in a real esoteric way, asking for colors and things like that, And so you're figuring all that out. But then also sometimes you're playing some music that, wow, I never thought in my life I'd end up playing on a song like this. Right. But you got to come at it from a fresh perspective. Right. And they don't want to sit there and think you're not enjoying yourself and you're turning your nose up at them and all that. So it helps to have that attitude. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, very professional attitude and actually a very constructive one as well, which is likely why you're as sought after as you are, I want you to know, you've got a lot of fans already. We have, and urge you to let us know where you're coming from. We have, let's see, Berlin, Cornwall, Russia, Turkey, Ireland, Germany, Georgia, and Knoxville, all tuned in so far.
Nice.
Let's see, New Zealand, Canada. It always blows my mind. Two things. One is how universal language music is. We might not be able to actually speak the same language, but music is kind of a universal language, right?
Absolutely. It blows my mind how easy it is to converse with fellow musicians, even when we don't speak the same language. And then the other side of that is how small the world is getting because of technology and social media and all that. This year I went to a number of countries I'd never been before, and I thought I'd be lucky to get 10, 20 people at these shows, and
it was
people show up,
only.
And that's an exciting thing for an artist.
Tell everyone where you went this year.
Geez, this year I went to the UK, to Europe, so Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Netherlands, Denmark, Hungary, all sorts of places.
Crazy.
Scandinavia, so Norway and Denmark and Finland and Sweden, Japan, Australia, South America, Argentina, all over the place. It was a busy year.
Yeah, but I mean, and you were like, it was all sold out, all your shows, right?
Yeah, which was an eye-opener because it's like it gives me the confidence to know that if I can figure out a way to book the shows and get myself there and not lose a ton of money, people will show up. Yeah. So now it's trying to do that everywhere. Just get everywhere where I know people want to see me.
Well, I the last thing you are is an overnight success, but you've been doing this. You've been doing this since you're 12 years old.
Yes, yeah.
Which is crazy. And we had, your buddy, Derek Trucks. Mm-hmm. You guys are the same age.
Same age,
right?
Yeah.
I remember seeing him when he was, I guess, 12 years old.
Yeah, sure.
And I didn't know it was you until we talked, but I remember seeing you, pretty much at the same time.
Yeah.
You're originally from Florida. You live in LA now. Yeah. And it's crazy, man. How many years?
It is crazy. It sometimes feels like another lifetime, that stuff, because, I grew up in South Florida.
Yeah.
And Derek grew up in Jacksonville. And we first saw each other at 12 years old. And we started to play gigs together, around the state of Florida, here and there, usually at least once a month for a few years there, between 12, 13, 14, 15 years of age. And we became friends, played together, hundreds of times. And, Derek had something special from the beginning. You heard it. You could see it right away.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Joe as well. He was, a couple of years older than you when you guys were out
Joe was like an influence on me to know that I could do this, to go and play with adults, and make it happen. Because I think Joe's 42. I'm 39. He's 3 years older than me. Yeah. And he's been out there just doing it forever.
He has. Boy.
Yeah.
He really has.
He's an inspiration, quite honest. He still is quite an inspiration.
So more people chiming in. We've got California, Philly, India, Omaha, South Texas, Greece, Denver, Holland, Blackpool, Australia, New Orleans, Belfast, and Quebec.
Awesome.
I mean, we're almost hitting every time zone. Okay,
that's really.
We need more from Eastern Europe. Come on, shout out.
Where is it where everybody's asleep right now?
Exactly. It's time to hit the pub somewhere in the world, right?
Yeah.
let's talk about the course just a little bit.
Okay.
What I love about this course, your course in particular, is your whole sound is this kind of confluence of all these different, all of your sessions, all of the different styles you've embraced. So this course, you share a lot of key concepts and techniques in the first half of it, which can be applied to any style, basically, any style, which is great. And then you take us through 8 performance studies where you solo in one of, in this case, 8 styles, although you can do many more styles than that. For example, Garage Blues, which I'd love for you to play, if you would, has kind of a country thing happening. Before you play it, where did the country influence come from?
So the country thing for me was not that I don't like country music. I love country music.
Yeah.
But the country guitar part came from techniques. I was trying to figure out how to play some of the stuff that these guys were playing.
Right.
And it became obvious that just flat picking this stuff was impossible. So I had to learn some new techniques, and that technique opened up a whole new world, this hybrid picking and this stuff. And it was starting definitely from Danny Gatton. When I was a kid, somebody handed me a cassette when this still happened.
And
it had Danny Gatton on one side and another guy named Roy Lanham on the other side. He was
Absolutely.
an old school jazz country guy.
Right.
And I put this tape in, and my mind was completely just blown. Just lost my mind.
Play this, and then show us a couple of country tricks, okay?
You got it.
Tommy. Crazy. So that's one of the performance studies from this course, right, in country. Just to kind of illustrate what I was talking about, how you span a lot, and everyone wants to hear you play and see you play.
Okay.
So Feel free to talk anytime you like, but I'm going to push you to play as much as possible
I'm
on
happy
this
to play.
broadcast.
That's the easy part.
Now, we also all loved, and by the way, you may have noticed on the other side of the glass that there were a lot of people coming through the studio back and forth. They had no reason to come in. They kept making excuses, come in and hear what you were doing in here.
Oh,
So
I like to see that. That's cool.
How about the New Orleans thing? You want to do that?
Yeah, so this groove is such a fun groove because it's syncopated, and I love that kind of second line or rumba or funk, anything that has a real syncopated beat, the kind of, because you get a chance to kind of move in and out of this beat, and it's almost like you have little, I see it, this is weird, but I see it visually as like little hangers that I can hang a lick off of, and I get in and out of these little valleys and kind of fill in with some interesting stuff. So
Cool.
This is an interesting kind of second line groove in B flat.
Let's do it.
And I caught the ending.
Nice. Hey, we're getting a lot of questions. Could you give some quick answers if
I'd
I
be
run
happy
up?
to,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's see. The first one is, How do I break the pentatonic barrier when playing the blues? That's the only scale I usually use to improvise. What's a
Okay.
good quick tip for that?
A good quick tip for breaking the pentatonic barrier is to really start thinking about the chords that you're playing and how to connect one chord to the other. So you've all heard the phrase playing over the changes.
Right.
I don't necessarily think of it that way. I think of it playing through the changes. Playing over the changes, we all know what to do. When a chord happens, we know, at least something to play over that chord. So if it's an A, we know to play A pentatonic. At least there's something we have in our box so we can play over that chord.
Right.
But if we know the next chord coming up is a D or whatever, a G or an F sharp minor or anything, a 2, a 6, a 3, a 5, how do we get from this chord to that chord without making it sound like we change keys? And that's where you use little devices like chromatics, diminished chords, and turnarounds. So a 2-5-1 is an incredibly great way to get from one chord to the next. And the simplest way to describe it is you play the 2-5 of the chord you're heading to next. So a lot of what you hear me do is going from, let's just take the 1 and the 4.
Okay.
So say we're in A, and we go from A7 to D7, right? Instead of just playing, you can do that, of course, and you're highlighting that D chord when you land on it. What if you play a 2-5-1 to get there? Well, that would mean you play a 2 and the 5 of the chord you're targeting next. So going to D, you would play E minor, A, to voice lead you to D. So in your solo, you could play, and that's just playing. Now you can do that between any chord, anywhere, on any song. In fact, entire jazz songs are built completely of just 2-5-1s that modulate. So it's an incredible
2-5-1
tool.
of the chord you're going to, in this case, the 4 chord.
Of the
right?
chord you're going to.
Very
So then you could go right back to the 1. So I could play, here it is in rhythmic form, if you just play. Now to go back to B. Right back and forth, 2-5-1 of the chord. So I played E minor and A to get to D,
Yeah.
and then I go back to A. I played B minor and E to lead me to A.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So another question is how someone's looking for ideas for going from the 1 chord to the 5 chord. Would that same principle apply there?
Absolutely. You could play the 2-5 leading to the 5 chord. So you could play and then play C sharp minor. Or you could play, same thing. Same thing. Or, of course, you could just play chromatically. There's so many things you can do. You could play a diminished chord, something like. So I'm moving up from A to B flat diminished, so, which is the tritone of E, so you could play, which is a really cool sound. You could play B flat directly leading to an E, which is a melodic minor thing, but it's the same concept. You could play A, and that's me playing B flat to get to E. Resolve to the 1.
I think that should give us all plenty to work with in the next several years, maybe. Okay, another question from Mark Gibbons. He'd like to know what you think about the state of the blues at the moment and the current generation of blues artists.
Okay, it's a loaded question, Mark.
Yeah, it is.
The state of the blues is in an interesting place right now. Number one, there's an enormous amount of incredibly good musicians playing the blues who have come up thirsty and hungry for this information, done their homework. So that's inspiring to see guys who have really dug in and learned the stuff that you need to learn and have a healthy respect for the blues. There's a weird thing in music culture where sometimes if you're too good a musician, you don't respect the blues that much. You think this is easy music that, anybody can play the blues. So it's nice to see a lot of people approaching the blues with a healthy respect, especially from guys who are really, really good musicians. Now, the other side of that is the blues audience isn't always the most open to people doing anything interesting or new with the blues. They want their blues in that same box that they've had that blues in for their whole lives, and that their parents had that blues in for their whole lives. And there's something to be said for that. This is a music that needs to be respected and upheld and, maintained for all time. But that's not what I want to do. I'm not a museum blues artist. I'm not going to go out there and play you note for note Johnny Guitar Watson or Otis Rush or Magic Sam, even though I could, and even though I love that stuff more than anything in the whole world. I'm trying to just be honest to what I'm hearing in my head and heart. And to me, that's what makes a true blues musician. Yes, you have to have done your homework, but when it comes time for you to get up on stage and improvise, you should be going out and playing whatever you're really hearing and feeling, and then trying to communicate that to the audience. As long as you're doing that, I can relate. So there's some new contemporary blues guys who old purists don't dig. But this guy, Fantastic Negrito, just won the Grammy 2 times in a row for his records. Doesn't play on any blues festivals. No blues people here care about him. Yet he's winning the Blues Grammy Awards because he's doing something new, and he's trying to put his own stamp on blues. And I know for a fact he's done his homework, and he respects the history of this music. To me, that's what's most important about blues. Take it forward and still respect the history.
Great answer, man. Great answer. Speaking of the blues, another one of your performance studies is that slow blues.
Yeah.
Let's get that ready to go. But first, talk about you do it in E flat for a particular reason in this course.
Well, I wanted to give guys. Well, I wanted to make guys uncomfortable. Quite honestly, I wanted to have them thinking about how do you play those stock blues licks that you've been playing your whole life in E flat. What if the singer calls a song in E flat, and you're stuck, and he's expecting you to be B.B. King over the top of this song, and you never play in E flat. So I wanted people to think about starting to be able to play all their stuff everywhere on the neck, even if it's just pentatonics. The pentatonics are here everywhere. There's 5 positions of them in every key, and they're everywhere you go. Yeah. And you can always connect them together. So the other thing was I just wanted guys to, start having that experience for playing those keys. And then I thought it would be, this one I really focused on playing less and trying to really, really mean what you're saying on the song. Just really playing the blues, which is obviously a subjective thing, but, it's important to me.
Let's do it.
All right.
crazy, man. I think he meant that.
I try to, man. I really
do.
It's funny, man. That's a real thing, I think. And I think the non-guitar players in the audience know the difference when a guy's up there faking it and when a guy really, really believes every note that he's playing, you know?
Well, what we sit behind the glass and we watch you do these things, and you talk, and you're a phenomenal teacher, as I told you already.
Thanks, man.
But man, when you start playing, you go to this other place. You don't see or feel. I don't know how to really describe it, but I think we just saw it happen.
I think that should be the goal,
right?
Especially as an improviser. Now, if you're playing meat and potatoes rhythm guitar, maybe you have a different goal. You have a different thing you're trying to do. But when I'm improvising, my number one goal is to really, really get everything I'm feeling, everything I'm hearing, everything I'm thinking out, and do it in the most direct way and honest way so that hopefully people can relate to it.
Awesome, man. By the way, Jeff Macrelane, one of our longtime instructors,
love Jeff.
Online, shouting out to you.
Thank you.
Also watching.
Cool,
Maybe
man.
Picking up a couple of things here and there.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
He's a great player, and
he's a wonderful guy.
You probably picked up a couple things from him along the way.
I've absolutely perused the TrueFire catalog.
I know. So let's play something else.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? Let's answer another question. We were going to do this in one of the other examples, but hybrid picking. It was very obvious that you shifted to that at one point here in the solo. You want to talk about your right hand technique a little bit and why you go to it? And
absolutely. So hybrid picking is a thing that's kind of starting in the country conversation. That's where it came from. But I quickly realized that once I was doing it subconsciously, unconsciously, that it took over the way I played guitar at all times. I used to absolutely root my hand down on the pick guard and play like this, completely anchored. And then the Danny Gatton tape came into existence, and I heard licks like this. And that doesn't sound good like this. So I quickly had to start figuring out ways to play those licks, and that was learning these new techniques, this, banjo rolls and all these things. Now, hybrid picking is incredibly hard to teach because it comes out naturally different ways for every player. But I found that there were certain exercises I used to do. I would sit on the edge of my bed and play a lot of these little triplets that were pick finger. So by that I mean 2 pick strokes down and 1 middle finger. So I would sit there and play these little triplet triads. And I would sit there until I got real comfortable with that. And then next thing I knew, I'd break out of it and start soloing. And everything kind of came out that way. And then I noticed I was playing rhythm guitar, and I was stabbing a lot of chords with my fingers, which is way more the way an organ player plays his chords, or a piano player, completely polyphonically, where all the notes are struck at the same time without strumming, And it lended a new way to me to play rhythm and a new way to do all this stuff.
So it all started with that first little exercise.
It was this lick.
Just do that again really slow for us.
Which one? That lick or the try?
Do the first, the first exercise where you pick 2 notes and then a finger on the 3rd note.
Okay.
Which once, I guess, your right hand started to develop some kind of little muscle memory.
Yes, exactly. I would play 2 downstrokes and then my middle finger. Yeah, like that.
Crazy.
And then I would involve the 2nd finger, or 4th finger, when I needed to play double stops. So when an extra string came in, it would... And then next thing you know, I hear Danny Gatton playing stuff. Whatever, crazy. He was unbelievable. But, the only way to pull that stuff is hybrid picking. But that quickly became the way I played everything. Stock blues licks like became... which just became kind of where I started to feel like I was finding my voice. when I
Yes.
mixed up all my knowledge of blues, some of this new techniques and different things, and then some of this new harmonic knowledge that I was
Moving it
learning
forward,
too.
man.
Yeah.
So you also during that blues solo just played with your fingers for what? Expression, for the tone of that.
You know, because
Is it even a conscious thing, or does
it's not conscious.
No.
You know, I talk a lot in improvisation and in solo, like getting out of your own way and letting it tell you what to play. And so a lot of that for me is, it's like you're answering yourself. When I play a lick, that lick absolutely informs the lick that's going to follow that lick. So something led me that way to where eventually I needed to play more like Albert King. You know, and that doesn't sound right unless you use your fingers, you know, and something just kind of pushes you that way. And I'm pretty good at flipping back and forth. I'm not as fast as some other people, but I can do it, you know. And yeah, sometimes fingers is the only way to get the sound that you're hearing in there.
It's awesome, and your audience obviously really digs it as well.
Thanks, man.
Let's. I love, I love them all. But then when you shifted gears to the jump blues thing,
Okay.
you do that in B flat.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of ties into the 2-5-1 you were talking about earlier, and also playing outside pentatonics. Just talk a little bit about that, and then Tommy will roll the track for you.
So basically, this is a swing blues in B flat, so it has some extra changes. There's a lot of things obviously you can do in the blues. So, you know, I'm substituting certain chords. Halfway through the 4, I'm normally playing diminished, or sometimes I'm playing 4 minor, and then maybe I'm playing a 3-6-2-5. Playing major 7s, you know, so I'm starting to fill all those things in. I'm chromatically connecting chords together, even as simply as going in your soul. And I'm playing diminished. So it's a mix of, to me, that's the ways that I connect chords together. It's chromatics, it's diminished and augmented scales, and it's 2-5-1s most especially. Because like I said, once I land on a chord, I've got muscle memory of all the things I know that work in that arena. It's just how do you make it flow from chord to chord and connect things together. So I don't think of it so much as playing outside the box. I think of it as just really, really flowing completely through whatever chords are happening in the song.
So, you know, earlier the lesson was to get to the 4 chord, play that 4 chords 2-5.
Right.
Where the 4 chord's the 1, right? So did that come first, or were you playing jazz that has a lot of 2-5-1s in it? What came first?
No, first it definitely came over the blues, for sure. The giant eye-opener was a song called Bloom Dido by Charlie Parker. I learned that head. It's a blues, so I didn't have to worry about what were the chords to the song. Was this incredibly hard? No, I could listen and really focus on the melody the guy was playing and start to figure out what he was doing. Do you mind if I show this?
Please do.
So basically, this head starts straight blues. It goes... Right, so that's a straight blues lick that ends on the 7, you know, on a B-flat 7. But then we're heading to the 4 chord, right? And he plays... And I'm like, what is that lick? That's amazing. And I realized that's him playing a 2-5-1 to lead to the 4 chord. And I was like, wait a minute, I just started working on these 2-5-1s. Wow. That's exactly what he just did in his solo. Okay, so then we're on the 4, right? And then what does he do next? He goes... So that's him going from 4 to 4 minor, which was one of the few things I learned I could do. I could go 4 to 4, or I could go 4 to diminished, and it was like, I realized this is speaking directly to me and everything I was learning right now. And then he goes, no, that's a different song. I got to play it at tempo. So he literally played a 2-5-1 where the 5 would go. Right. It was everything I worked on.
Crazy.
And once I learned that head, it was like ding, 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 ding. And it was like, wait a minute, this is still just the blues, you
Right.
know, but he's connecting all these chords together. And it was when I really heard the difference between like a rock guy and a jazz guy, because I was listening, of course, to Vai and Satriani and these guys, Eric Johnson.
Yeah.
And when they're playing chords, when another chord happens, it's kind of like they change keys.
Right.
They play scales that fit over that chord. It's
Right.
incredibly melodic.
Right.
But they don't turn around from one chord to the next or
Uh-huh.
chromatically move
Right,
from one chord to
right.
the next. And that was the big moment of this is the difference.
That's very ear and eye opening right there. So when you started to play jazz, which has a lot of the actual 2-5-1 chord changes in
Yeah.
it, you were already like,
I had a little bit of a head start,
Yeah.
at least for figuring out some of the ways to connect the chords together.
we have to do a course just on this topic. I'll bet you anything folks would really dig that,
Yeah,
because we're
absolutely.
all stuck in that pentatonic box. You
Well,
ready?
I think, man, I think guys get nervous about the concept of playing this stuff. It seems like Latin or rocket science.
Oh, yeah.
But there's no difference between giant steps and what I just said.
Right.
It's exactly the same concepts. It's just more chords.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right. Well, that's it's the way you're explaining it is very accessible, right? But you're right. It's hard to break out of that pentatonic box,
And there's
for
nothing wrong
most
with the
players.
pentatonic box either.
No. But then we hear you do some of the things you're doing and then explaining how you're doing it, and we just want to learn more. So
Well, I guess
next
good.
time, okay?
All right.
You want to play that jump blues thing
Let's do it.
in B flat?
remember where the ending was.
Oh man, how lucky am I, huh? I'm sitting
Oh,
right
man,
here
come on.
watching all this. This is really crazy. That's amazing. Let's God, we could do this for hours, right? We're running a little short on time, and I want to make sure we talk about gear. I want to talk about the album.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about the cruise, and then you're headed to the UK after the cruise. So
I am, yeah, for a
let's
month.
try to hit all those topics. Can you run down the gear for us?
Okay, so today I'm playing my number one Chapin T-Bird guitar. It's a 50 style Tele, so it's ash body, one-piece maple neck. It's been my main guitar going on 13 years, and
Really?
I love it to death.
Beautiful.
And just to make everybody who doesn't know me freak out, I have 13 to 58 gauge strings on here, tuned to standard. So I know everybody who does know me already knew that, but if you didn't, that's what's going on here.
Oh my God.
That's part of the tone for sure.
Yeah.
On my pedal board, I have some great stuff. It's a cool Schmidt Array pedal board from Germany that I can carry on the plane. I have a looper because part of my tone philosophy is have as clean a signal path and as little compression as possible.
Yeah.
I always want maximum dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
So the looper helps with that because when you're not playing through any pedals, you're not playing through any pedals. You're straight in and out, straight to the amp. So a lot of times I'm using one pedal, so that's the only thing my guitar is going through at the time.
Okay.
In fact, right now that's been the only thing happening,
Mm-hmm.
which was my love pedal Chula, which
Yeah.
is my main drive pedal and has
Yeah.
been for 10 years.
Yep.
And then I'm playing through my Morgan JS12, which is a Josh Smith signature amp. Came out about 6 months ago. I'm incredibly proud of this amp. It also has my signature speaker in it from Eminence,
Yeah.
and it's like a Princeton reverb.
So
style amp.
what size speaker and
It's a
how many
12-inch
watts?
speaker.
12
It's a
inch.
12-watt amp,
Yeah.
like a
12
Princeton
watt?
reverb. Yeah, it's like
Okay.
a Princeton reverb, but with a
Nice.
12-inch speaker,
Yeah.
a 2-knob reverb circuit, so you have
Yeah.
dwell, and it also has a little boost built in. It's a special amp that
Very
you
cool.
can't make sound
We've got
bad.
a nice shot of it.
Nice.
And how long has that been out?
The amp has been out about 6 months.
Okay. Don't forget it before you go because you'll never see it again here. It sounds fantastic.
I love it. I've been using Morgan amps over 10 years now, I think.
So will you bring this amp out to every gig and just mic it? Or
No, I have bigger ones, bigger
big-
Morgans. But Joe Morgan made me what was initially called the PR12
Yeah.
around 7 years ago
Yeah.
when I had a gig on the Grammys with Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
And it was a special gig, and I wanted 2 little tweed amps.
Yeah.
And one was, I said, can you make me a Princeton
Yeah.
reverb? So he made that. I have that still. It's the
Yeah.
very first PR12.
Yeah.
But then everybody wanted one. So it became
I mean,
a model.
could you see it on stage? Did
you
you
could.
see
I had 2 that looked just
He
like
got
this.
airtime, yeah.
It got airtime because the M lights up on the
Yeah.
front. It was
Oh
great.
man, that's
Yeah.
so smart. And how much? What are they? What street on those
These are
amps?
$2,200 this combo.
Wow. Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do something with them around the launch of this course.
Well, we're definitely going to have a giveaway for
promo
some of the
giveaway.
Morgan pedals.
Awesome.
He sent some along when he sent this amp for us to have here.
Fantastic,
So
man.
yes, I hope
So, do you play any other guitars besides that
I
one?
play a Strat sometimes.
Yeah.
I play a Les Paul sometimes.
Yeah.
I have a few 335 style guitars. One
Yeah.
made by this guy Josh Williams, and another Collings.
Yeah.
I really love those 335 style guitars.
Yeah.
But the Tele is my heart and soul. So 90% of the time,
Yeah.
you're seeing me on this. It used to be 99%, but I'm opening myself up and bringing the Strat and other guitars
Yeah.
here and there.
Now that guitar you've been playing for 13 years. Is it, let's say, naturally distressed or
Naturally. This looked
It
like
was
a brand new
when it
guitar
came
I
out of the
got it.
box, right?
Absolutely. It just has a very thin finish,
Yeah.
and I've
Turn
played,
it around if you would.
I've played the heck out of this guitar, and it's
And
seen
in the studio as well.
in the studio. This has been number one for a long time now.
Incredible. How many albums have you recorded so far? It's like,
Personally,
yeah,
10,
since you were your first
kid.
one at how old?
14.
14 years
Yeah.
old. And
This
the latest one, which is
Burn to
getting
Grow. Just came out.
unbelievable reviews,
Thank you,
right?
man.
Just
Yeah.
and I've heard it. It's nuts.
That's my 10th
You've got to
album.
have this album. Okay?
Thanks, man.
And they should buy it. Buy this music, right?
hope you do.
Don't stream it or Spotify. Go and buy the damn CD.
I would appreciate it.
Okay. So the cruise is it's the Keeping the Blues Alive, right?
It's Joe Bonamassa's cruise, keeping
Yeah.
the blues alive at sea.
Yeah.
Because I guess it was dead at sea, and now it's still alive.
I
the
guess
blues.
it's alive.
But we're resuscitated it
Yeah.
at sea, and this is the 5th one, and I've been
Yeah.
lucky enough to be on all of them. Joe
Yeah.
is an incredibly good friend and
Yeah.
kind dude, and he likes to have his friends around.
Yeah.
So he's had both me and our friend Kirk Fletcher
Yeah.
on every one so far, and it's a great time. Always a ton of great bands.
Yeah.
And a lot of jamming and happenings going on. So if you're interested, you got to go early though, because it sells out like
It
this
does.
every year.
It really does. It's very popular event.
It's very guitar.
Oh,
So like
yeah?
this year is me,
Yeah.
Kirk, Joe, of course, Kenny Wayne Shepherd,
Yeah.
Eric Gales,
Uh-huh.
Walter Trout. It's guitar, guitar, guitar.
Yeah, I mean, where else are you going to get all you guys in one place for, a
Well,
period
and for
of
us,
time?
it's great to see our friends, but
Mhm.
also to know that every person there is in your target audience.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And that maybe you are keeping the blues alive,
We're
right?
trying, man. We're
I know.
trying hard.
I know. Well, you're doing a great job. Then after the cruise, you head to the UK. Talk about that.
Yeah, so last year was my first trip to the UK as a solo artist
Yep.
in over 10 years.
Yep.
And it was the best tour of the year. It was
Yeah.
unbelievable. Every show was packed.
Yeah.
My friend Dudley organized the tour, and it was really, really great. He did a great job. So this year we're trying to step it up even another notch.
Nice.
Playing different venues, more venues.
Mhm.
I'm going to be busting my butt. It's like 19 shows in 19 days.
Oh,
But it's a blast over there. The
Yeah.
fans have been so supportive. And before I got there last year, it was absolutely the place I was getting the most emails and messages from daily. Like, when are you coming to the
Yeah.
UK? So I'm really excited to be going back
well,
again.
they're great fans, and they love you, and you've got a ton of them on here as well.
That's
know?
good to hear, man.
Couple more quick questions, and then we'll
Yeah.
play one more tune and let you get back to work. A quick tip on rhythm, playing rhythm guitar. Quick tip.
Okay, so rhythm guitar is something that gets criminally overlooked sometimes, but it's more than half the pie, especially if you want to be a working guitar player. Then it's 75% of the pie because you're going to end up playing rhythm more than you're soloing, and especially if you want people to hire you. So the main thing is your rhythm has to feel good. Your time has to be great, and your pocket has to be deep. And by that, I mean you've got to become part of that rhythm section with the drummer and the bass player locked in, creating something that not only feels good for whatever you're backing up, be it a singer or a soloist, but also feels good to the audience, gives them something to latch onto. So if you want to work on becoming a better rhythm player and finding a pocket, nothing can help you more than practicing along with James Brown records. Practice James Brown all day long, even one chord vamps. Sit there on the edge of your bed until this feels incredible. Woo! Don't even stop. I just want to be like Bernard Purdie and go, woo, woo. But you got to just, that's the way that you find your pocket and you start to make this stuff feel good. It's not about how much you can play or how many things you throw in. It's about whether you play a lot or a little, does it feel great? And nothing helps you achieve that feel better than learning funk and soul and R&B rhythm guitar. There's just no. So listen to
What a great
Jimmy
tip.
Nolan with
Yeah.
James Brown. Listen
Yeah.
to Cornell Dupree. Listen
Yeah.
to Steve Cropper, and you'll be on the right path.
That's a great tip, man. Another question. We talked about the 1 to 5 use of arpeggios.
Okay.
So, we learn our arpeggios, but they often sound like we're playing arpeggios.
Yeah, sure.
Quick tip on that.
Okay. I try not to think of arpeggios as full arpeggios. I try to see chords, just chords. It's all, in fact, that's all I'm ever thinking when I'm playing is what chord is next, right? So if I'm playing, let's say I'm playing in G, right? And I'm thinking the next chord is a 2 minor, an A minor. I'm not thinking of the A minor scale or an A minor arpeggio. I'm thinking of, if I'm playing a 7, I may play this shape, or I may play this shape, or I may play a 9. I'm seeing those shapes, and I'm just going to go in and fill out that shape without arpeggiating the chord. You're never going to hear me go whatever.
Right.
I don't even know them anymore.
Right.
I'm more thinking, okay, this is an A minor chord with a 9 in it, so I want to hit that B in there. I want to get that B in there, and how am I going to do it? Where am I? So I think of all the places I play that chord and how to just somehow get that voicing in there and know what chord's going to come after it. So it's like, what if I'm going from G to A minor to D, 7 sharp 9, flat 9? I may go and that's not me arpeggiating anything.
No.
It's me just blowing through those chord shapes.
So you're seeing the shape of the chord tones then
Yeah.
of that.
In my head,
voicing.
if this makes sense,
It does.
it's like flashcards.
Right.
I see, like I'm looking at the real book, I see G. And if it's a G13, I see G13 screaming at me.
Yeah.
Play the 13th of this G chord, you know? If it's an A minor 7, I see, okay, you want to play A minor with a G in there. You know what I mean? I just, that's the way I see it.
Another course right there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You talked about hybrid picking. I think it's time to do the funk thing.
Okay.
There was a concept in the course about, tone and informing what you play, and
Yeah.
talk to that a little bit before the funk thing, and then play us out.
Okay, so I'm going to change my tone on this, and I'm going to let that tone inform what I play over this song.
And you haven't changed your tone throughout.
Not yet.
Right.
So I'm gonna put on an Octavia pedal,
Okay.
and that's going to lead me down a new path.
Okay.
And I think sometimes that gets overlooked, and you learn all these things, scales and things. We're trying to build a vocabulary, but you're also trying to learn how to read the moment and the song. And when you're improvising, things happen during the course of, even in the middle of your solo. You play something in your solo and you go, ooh, what was that? And it informs the next thing you play, and maybe it becomes a theme of the solo. Tones do the same thing. If I sit down and grab my Strat and turn on a fuzz and a slapback delay, most likely I'm immediately going to start thinking of certain things.
Right.
I'm going to hear Eric Johnson in my head
Right.
because I grew up hearing Eric
Right.
Johnson in my head. So it'll make me play a different way if that it inspires you. So sometimes it's okay to, when a solo starts, I used to, when I was a kid, take the approach that there were certain things I could do to make this solo go a certain way, to teach me things. So sometimes it would be, okay, you're only going to play this solo in this position on these 3 strings. Sometimes it would be, okay, whatever you play to start the solo, that's the theme of the solo. You got to make it work all the way through the solo, no matter how long. And other times it would be, okay, this solo, I'm going to turn on a Leslie and play the whole solo with a Leslie sound, and that's going to completely change what I'm thinking about for this solo. So I'm going to do that now with an octave pedal and see what
Okay.
comes out.
Cool. And this is a minor funk track in D.
Yes, it is.
And by the way, all these tracks are featured in the course. I don't know, what did we do? 5 of
we
them?
did 8.
Yeah, 8 in the course. You only did 5 here in the broadcast, but they're all different. There's all, key insights you provide along the way for each one of them, like we've done today.
Absolutely.
Much deeper than what we can do in just an hour's time. So, minor funk in D.
Let's do it.
usually I say goodbye over, I couldn't do it.